3, certified life and wellness coach. I've been basically the go-to when it comes to advice. And honestly, I've been doing it for a long time now and decided that, you hear all these people saying, do what you're good at. And I've been I've been life coaching since I was like 14, and adults would come and talk to me. And I'm like, why are they talking to me? So I've been doing this, but I got certified. So now I'm certified. But life experience is the best experience because you ain't getting certain things in a book. So I have been helping people since I can remember. And when I first started out with coaching, I wanted to be a wellness coach. I wanted to do the wellness thing. And I was like, within the melanated communities, high blood pressure, diabetes, all this stuff going on. I had cancer when I was 26. So I really wanted to help people feel better, get better, and be healthy. And then I started to notice that a lot of people didn't want to be healthy. They not that they didn't want to be healthy, they didn't know where to start. And with them not knowing where to start, you have to start with mindset. Because if you're not starting with mindset, you're not getting anywhere. So in order for me to help people, I decided to go back to self-love and teaching people self-love and talking to people about self-love because it starts there. So I am thrilled to combine my experience and passion and support you on this journey towards self-love, personal growth, and overall wellness from the inside out. And I want to thank you all for coming. I appreciate y'all coming because time is something that we cannot get back. And I am glad that y'all are spending y'all time with me. Hey, Janice. And it's a blessing and an honor, you know, because people take time. Time is fleeting. Time is running by fast. It's going by so fast. So let's get started. As you see, you got this blue car over here. Are you aware of your surroundings? And I know a lot of people, they say that they're aware of their surroundings. They know what's going on and all this stuff. But are you really aware of your surroundings? Like when I go to the store, I get out the store. I'm not parking next to the kidnapper van. I'm not. I'm not parking. The white vans. Everybody be like, don't park near the white vans. I'm not parking near the kidnapping van. I'm not parking near the car that the tents are too deep, too dark, and I can't really see in them. So you're trying to park somewhere where you can go in safely and come out safely. But are we using that awareness for our inner self? Because you could be aware of, especially, I'm just gonna say it, being in the melanated community, you have to be aware of stuff. Like, especially if you I live in the hood, not the hood, but there's certain things that go down. You have to be aware of them. And as far as protecting your physical self, you have to protect your mental self too. Wu-Tang used to say, protect your neck, but you have to protect yourself in order to, I'm dating myself. You have to protect yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually, especially now with everything that's going on. Everybody's out of pocket at this point. Mostly everybody's out of pocket. They're running around doing things they shouldn't be doing, saying things they shouldn't be saying. And I think emotional intelligence is so needed right now. But you have to start with the self-awareness and being aware of the things around you. Because some people, I see people on their phone, they're not paying attention. And it's like, you don't see that car coming? So we got to take that same awareness and put that awareness within ourselves. Because if not, we're just running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And I think a lot of people, they don't want to talk about self-awareness and being accountable for some of the things that they do or they say. And it's kind of like, I'd rather blame somebody else. So when it comes to self-awareness, recognizing and understanding your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors Most people operate in about 8 of them when it comes to your emotions. And I don't think a lot of times people talk about their emotions. They usually operate in love, anger, like I'm unhappy, but they don't talk about, they don't express their emotions. They don't know how to express their emotions. And when I really got deep into it, there's about 27. If you look at an emotional wheel, it's intense. There's an emotional wheel, and it breaks down the emotions. So the most common ones are anger, sadness, disgust, love, anxiety, happiness, and joy. So most people operate in those emotions. But in order to be more self-aware, you have to know more than just those common emotions, because your emotions guide your thoughts. So when you talk about thoughts help us process information, make sense of the world, and reflect on experiences. If we're not emotionally intelligent and we only operate, you ever see somebody, every time something happens, their first emotion is to get mad, or their first emotion is to get sad. And you're just like, well, we don't even know really what's going on. Let's find out what's going on first before we jump into that emotional roller coaster of being mad, because they only operate in that emotion. And you're like, well, I don't even know what's going on, so I'm not going to get emotional yet. I'm not gonna set myself up to be emotional about something when I don't even really know what's going on. And the mental process that occurs in the mind, taking various forms and serving different purposes, we have to really, like, sometimes you just, when something's going on, sometimes you just got to sit back and just see how it plays out. Because a lot of times I think people are, they're so ready to just attack it. Like, let's see how this plays out. And then we have the types of thoughts that we have. We have conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. So your conscious thoughts are thoughts we are aware of. Like this morning, I knew that I needed to be here for 7 o'clock. So I was aware of that. Or I knew that I wanted to make tacos because it's Tuesday. So I was aware of that. And then we have subconscious thoughts. Those thoughts are below our awareness, influencing our behavior. And within the self-awareness, we have to have your behaviors also shape your thought process. And then you have the unconscious thoughts where they're deep seated. You don't really know where they're coming from, but you know that is there. So you could have, like, I told my mother one time, there was a apartment that we lived in, but the apartment across the street, for some reason, and I was very young. I was like, I remember this black and white spotted. I said, did we live there? And she was like, no, we lived across the street. So unconsciously, I remembered that apartment across the street, even though I probably was never in that apartment. I remember that apartment across the street. And then you have, that affecting your feelings and your actions. And it's like, well, where is this coming from? Why do I feel like this? Or somebody says something and you're triggered by it, but you don't know why you're triggered by it, because it's an unconscious thought. So a lot of times we have to really, like, I had to learn myself to really sit and think about things before I just jumped on it. Because sometimes I was like, I used to just wake up angry for no reason. Just wake up angry. Like, what are you angry for? And I would just be angry all the time. And I'm like, you can't run around being angry all the time. Then we have the how thoughts influence our behaviors. Now, we got negative thoughts, defensive, blame shifting, perfectionism, internal validation, comparisons to other, cognitive dissonance. Now, negative talk, everybody does it. Everybody's had it. Everybody's been there. You got to take that negative and make it positive. So when you doubt yourself, your abilities, and your talents, and it leads to low self-esteem, I think a lot of times some people they're told, you got this, you know how to do this, you're so talented, you're this, you're that. And in the back of their mind, they're like, A lot of people, you cannot talk to them and it's not going through. It's not going through it. You're not. I'm not talented. They doubt everything. And you can see this person do like something that you've never seen anybody else do. And you'll be like, oh my God, how did you learn how to do that? And where'd you learn? And they'll be like, mm-mm, it's not, it's not that big of a deal. It's not, it's not, it's not important. And I call them sometimes, and it's terrible to say, but I call them like they have like a Eeyore spirit. Like no matter what you say to them, they're just like, they're like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. It doesn't matter what you say to them. They just, it's not, it's not, it's not important. It's not as as you see it. They don't see it. And sometimes you got to pull that out of people, and sometimes you can't. And then defensive thoughts, avoiding constructive criticism and reflection. A lot of people do not like constructive criticism. I can't talk. They don't like it. They don't want to hear it. And the sad part is more than, let's say, five people could tell them the same thing. And they'd be like, no, no, it's not me. It's not me. It's everybody else. But if five people are telling you the same thing and they're telling you so that you could better yourself and they're telling you to help you, don't five people, they ain't lying. And it's not going to be five people from your same circle. It's going to be somebody at work, somebody at church, someone somewhere else. Your kids might tell you, because these kids be saying anything nowadays. It's always going to be separate people. It's not going to be the same circle. They're going to tell you stuff that you don't want to hear. And then we get to blame shifting and avoiding the personal responsibility. Blame shifting is definitely one of the things that I hear a lot. My mother didn't do this. My father didn't do that. My grandmother didn't love me. Like there's always somebody to blame. And it's like, okay, well, you 40 some years old now. Like what's the what's your excuse now? Or if only if I hear people that are couples, because couples, I mean, not couples talk to me, but a lot of people talk to me about relationship stuff. And they're like, well, if only she would change, or if only he would change. And I'm like, well, you can only change you. You can't change nobody else. And you want to blame, well, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. But what did you do? They don't want to talk about that. That's like a whole nother story. And perfectionism. I feel like procrastination. Why are you shaking your head? I feel like perfectionism. I feel like perfectionism is a form of procrastination due to fear of not being perfect. And it's like it almost paralyzes you and you don't do anything. And then you're just like, well, I could have did this. I got up at 6:30 in the morning and now it's 3 o'clock and I ain't do nothing because I wanted it to be perfect, but I ain't do anything at all. Instead of just doing it, just do it. Just do it. It ain't gonna be perfect. So many things happened to me today with this laptop and all this stuff. It ain't gonna be perfect. It is not going to be perfect. And you know it. You know it's not gonna be perfect. And that's okay. Because as we go through the process of doing it over and over again, it gets better. And I don't believe in perfect anyway. I do believe it gets better, it gets greater, but you have to do it in order to see where you need to tweak, what things you need to change. So you have to do it. External validation, dependence relying on others' approval instead of developing a strong internal sense of self. I'm gonna say this, and some people, I'm not gonna say some of y'all, I'm gonna say some people want external validation from people who they don't even they don't even have their own stuff going on. And they want external validation from them. They don't even have their own stuff going on. And if they do, it's not good. It's like it's to me, it's like telling people you need to do blah 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 to start a business, but they don't got no business. Or people are waiting for external validation from their parents or their grandparents or the auntie. And it's like, they don't even really have everything going on right now. Like, why are you, yeah, you could learn from them, but we don't need that external validation from everybody. Some people are still holding on to external validation from somebody, and the person is dead. And they still holding on to that, thinking that they needed their approval before they died. You don't need anybody's approval. Do what you need to do. You don't need anybody's approval. And then comparisons to others, feeling inadequate and distracted from your own growth. Now with the social media and all this stuff going on, you see what other people doing. And I was listening to someone and they were comparing themselves to somebody that just bought a house, that, you know how when people start at the same time and then one person just, it takes off. And they were comparing themselves to somebody that just bought a house on social media. And I was like, girl, that house looked like all them other houses that people be showing online. And I'm like, it's the same counter, like the same everything. I'm like, the same stove, same fridge. I said, do you know they have something called creator homes where you can rent out a house for like a week or whatever? It's called creator homes. You got to have at least, I think, 100,000 followers or something like that. You rent these houses out and you pretend that these houses are yours. I'm like, look at the comforter. The comforter looked like the other girl comforter. Like, this is the same house. Why are you comparing yourself to other people? And I really feel like most of the stuff on the internet is fake when it comes to influencers and people that are online. I mean, a lot of it is fake. Like a lot of people love the Kardashians, and I'm just like, they are the biggest fakes ever. They steal from other people. Like, there's nothing, I'm not gonna say there's nothing unique about them, but you can't look at other people's stuff. You can't look at, because you know, you got certain family members, they got this big house. You looking at, oh, I really want a big house like them, because you in your apartment, but they got that big house, and when the winter hit, they cold because they can't heat that big house. And you in your apartment all comfy and cozy with your fluffy slippers on, and they cold, and you're not over there because you don't, because when they, you know, when you get invited to places, you know, they're gonna have the heat on, they're gonna have it, but most of the time they cold. And it's like, you comparing yourself to somebody and they ain't got it together as much as you think. Or people that go out and buy, they go out and they don't live within their means. So they go out and they got these pretty cars. They got nice cars, but they can't put gas in them. So it's like, you got this pretty car, and you can't just put any kind of gas in a pretty car. You gotta put the high grade in there, and they can't even do that. They running around talking about, give me $5, give me $5 on 10. Like, you can't do that with a pretty car. Like, you gotta be able to fill it up. Somebody I know, they got a Lexus, and they were talking about how much it costs to fill up their car, but they got the money to fill it up. And I was like, $80 to fill a car, to fill a car. And I was driving my minivan at the time, and I was like, my minivan don't even cost that much to fill out. And it was like, but that person I know for sure, they got it. But for me, I was just like, I ain't taking $80 for no car. That's just me. Then we have cognitive dissonance, rejecting new information that contradicts existing beliefs. A lot of people are suffering from this. I'm not sorry. Because they think what they've been told since they were a child. This is right. This is the way to do it. This is how you do it. So when you tell them something other than that, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to believe it. If you watch how things are going now within this political race, like, a lot of people are suffering from cognitive dissonance. And they don't believe what they see. They don't believe what they see. they believe what they hear. And I think a lot of times seeing is believing. And I've been seeing different things, and I'm not even gonna go into what I've been seeing, but a lot of people, you cannot talk to them and it's not going through. It's not going through it. You're basically you're banging your head on it. It's not going through. It's it's not going through. It's not going through it. You're basically you're banging your head on it. So how are we gonna overcome those thoughts? In order for us to overcome those thoughts, especially when it comes to because once you recognize that you're having those types of thoughts, especially the negative thoughts, and thinking that you're not good enough, and thinking that, you know, oh, my apartment's small, or my car is a raggedy car, but your car is getting you from point A to point B. Recognizing those thoughts, you have to recognize them at this point in the game. You got to recognize them, because if you don't, you're going to be like this forever, and you don't want to be that way, because it falls on everybody around you. And then after a while, certain people are not going to want to be around you. Certain people, it falls on everybody around you. And then after a while, certain people are not going to want to be around you. Certain people are just, they're going to tell you how they feel, and they're going to leave you alone. And I'm not saying this is about people, because at the end of the day, even though this is about self-love, people need people, but you need the right people. So you have to reflect on those thoughts and think, what made me think that way? What behaviors made me think those thoughts? What emotions made me think that? So when you aim to develop a deeper understanding of your inner self for personal growth, because if you want to grow personally, if you want to grow mentally, spiritually, you have to have a come to yourself moment about how you think and why you think that way. If not, you will be thinking that way for the rest of your life. I'm sure everybody knows somebody that's like 60 something, wearing baggy jeans and oversized clothes, looking like they're from the 90s, like trying to dress like these young, or they got the tight jeans on and the tight clothes, and they try to dress like these young boys, and you're like, dude, you're 60. Like, put something else on. Put on a polo shirt and some slacks or something. And they out here, they trying to look like these young boys, and it's just like, not saying that you should tell somebody how to dress, but after a while, you start looking and you're just like, okay, you 60 years old. Like, come on, let's upgrade it a little bit. I know the 90s were a great time. I grew up in the 90s, but let's grow up with it. So now we got self-esteem, because with self-awareness, we have to build our self-esteem, and understanding the emotions, the thoughts and stuff like that. It basically wears on your self-esteem. So what is self-esteem? Confidence in one's own worth. And I had to look up the word worth, because I don't think a lot of people know their worth. And when you don't know your worth, your self-esteem is very low, and you'll sometimes end up in situations that you don't want to end up in. You'll sometimes end up with people that you shouldn't be with and shouldn't have married, and you end up in those situations and you're like, oh, I met somebody new, but it's the same person in a different body. So once you learn your worth, you're recognizing your intrinsic value and importance, deserving respect, love, and happiness simply because of who you are, not because of somebody else, not because of, oh, I'm a great mom, and I'm a mom myself. But you have to know your worth. And then when you build your self-esteem through self-awareness, and you're understanding those emotions and those behaviors, and now you can build a new self-image, because I'm not taking, no, you're not going to be talking to me any old kind of way. You're not going to be doing whatever you want to me. You're not going to be, I don't know why that came to my mind, but stealing my money. Like, I don't know why that came to mind, but you're not going to be doing any old thing to me and then thinking I'm just going to be okay with it. And even with people who get caught up in abusive relationships, I've seen several abusive relationships within my family, and I've seen people just up and leave because they were tired of it, and they knew that they found their worth. And I mean up and leave, like, bro went to work and came back and there was no furniture, like, up and left because they were tired of being abused. And that's what I mean, like, when I said you get into certain situations that you really don't want to be in. And that's not even to make light of, the people that feel like they can't get out. But there are some people, they're done with it and they move on. And they go and they start loving themselves and they start taking better care of themselves. And then the next thing you know, they married somebody else and this person is just the greatest person ever. So we have to learn our worth, because if you don't learn your worth, people that want to use you and abuse you, that's their goal. They know. They know, like, there's certain people, they could pick you out of a crowd and they know you have low self-esteem. They know you don't know your worth. So in order to build that self-esteem, it has to start with your mind. It has to start there first. And I'm not saying it starts overnight, because it does not. Combating those negative thoughts, it's going to take time. You might have to read some books, watch some YouTube videos. You might have to journal some stuff out, but it's definitely going to take some time, because once you learn your worth, people are going to love you or they're going to leave you alone. That's one of my favorite sayings: love me or leave me alone. And you have to love me correctly. You can't love me based off what you think I need. You have to love me correctly. And we have to teach people how to love us correctly. If not, and run all over you. So don't let anybody define your happiness. Because I think a lot of times when we're talking about self-esteem, when we're talking about our worth, people let other people define their happiness. And it's like, that's your happiness. I'm sitting here and I'm miserable, but you're happy. Anybody that you're around and they're happy that you're miserable is not your people. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's your parents, your grandparents, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, husband, wife. If they're okay with you being unhappy because they're happy and that's all that matters, them is not your people. And you can tell them I said so. And then once you're around people that are happy, people that are working on their negative thoughts and negative traits, you start to see things different. Because a lot of times when you're in that little, I call it like the two piece to a pod mentality, when they say birds of a feather. When you're in that circle, ain't nobody happy. Everybody's talking about everybody. Everybody's mad. Everybody's being the misery to their company. And you got to get out of those circles, because you're just not going to be happy. And it doesn't matter who they are. And I'm big for, I don't care about cutting people off. If you're a mental headache to me every time we talk, and when we talked about how you act and how you portray yourself or whatever it is, and you're still doing, I'm not being around you. I have people that I haven't talked to, and I see them every once in a while, and they're like, call me, and I'll just say no. No, I'm not calling you. I'm not gonna lie and say I'm gonna call you. I'm not calling you. I'm not. I'm not doing it. I don't. No. Mm-mm. You're not going to kill my joy. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. And I don't, it doesn't bother me. It does not bother me at all. So key points to like, I was going on, I was ranting for a minute. Key points on self-esteem: respect yourself. Speak up. Speak up. You don't got to get loud with them. You ain't got to act like you're going to jump in somebody's face. Calmly and firmly. Because for one, calmly and firmly gonna trip them out anyway. So they're gonna think like, well, she not playing with me right now. He not playing with me right now. And you are deserving of love. And define your own happiness. And I went ahead of the slide. I was going off. And your surroundings matter. They matter so much, especially. I mean, at work you can kind of, but you can't. But your surroundings matter. And like I said, I don't care if it's family, friend, old friends, like, because some people are trying to pull you back. And one thing I think about when it comes to self-esteem, dressing up. A lot of people who lack self-esteem sometimes, they're always kind of messy. They don't look put together. Dress up sometime. Walk with your head up high. Set them boundaries, learn how to say no, and be firm on it. Stand on it. What they say now, stand on business. My people say stand 10 toes down. Stand on it and celebrate your progress. People that you say no to, they will get over it. Because honestly, if somebody calls you and asks you for $50 and you say no, they just gonna go ask somebody else. They don't care. Like, if they care that much, then I don't know what to tell you. But celebrate those no's. So you ain't got to. It's some people I know, they will get out their bed for anybody. I am not. If it's not a dire emergency, I'm not getting out of my bed. Because some people will call you and it's not an emergency. They just want to see if you're going to come because they're so used to using you. You got to stop people from using you. So celebrate that progress. Forgive yourself. Be as compassionate with yourself as you are with other people. Because self-compassion is just lacking nowadays. Be compassionate to you. That same way you treat that cousin you feel bad for, or that friend you feel bad for, treat yourself that way. Talk to yourself how you talk to them. Because most of the time they don't come to you and talk to you like that when you need something. So you got to build yourself up sometime until you can get a better circle. Talk to yourself how you talk to them, and stop beating yourself up about the past. The past is the past. Unless you got a time machine, there's nothing you can do about it. Can you learn from it? Yes. But are we sitting in the past sometimes way too much? It's time to get out of the past. If we can't go back to that. That's just like we can't get our time back. We start at 7 o'clock. We can't go back to 7 o'clock. We can't get that time back. And the non-toxic support. You have to spend time with supportive people. Avoid frenemies and backhanded compliments. I don't do frenemies. I don't do that whole, oh, well, you think you're cute today. Like, I'm cute every day. If we friends, we both could be cute. Like, there's no competition or no animosity because you got something that I don't got. And a lot of people sit around people like that. And I'm just like, you didn't hear what she just said? Like, you didn't hear that. And I'm just looking at them like, because sometimes I just sit and I'll just listen to people and I'm like, oh, this is what y'all do. This is how y'all treat each other. And like everybody going around calling each other bitch. Oh, don't call me that. Don't call me that. That's a female dog. I'm not a dog. Don't call me that. Oh, it's a term of endearment. Not for me. Not for me. I don't want to be called that. I do not want to be called that. That brings us to self-actualization. I cannot talk. Self-actualization is a process of realizing and fulfilling one's own purpose, one's own potential, capabilities, and purpose. This one, for me, was the hardest one because I felt like I didn't have that much purpose. I didn't have too many capabilities. And then, like I said, when people come to you and they're like, oh, you know how to do this, you know how to do that. How do you know how to do that? You have all these things going on that you don't think you have going on. And you really got it going on. And you feel like you feel less than because you're looking at other people. So we have to learn how, because self-actualization is it's not just personal development, it's also what are you good at work? What are you doing at work? You got all these gifts and talents, these skills. They come to you for everything. And you're not even the manager. They come to you for everything. They're always asking you for stuff. How do you do this? How do you do this on the laptop? How do you do that? Oh, or the manager will send the people to you. Go ask LaTanya. She'll do it. She know how to do it. She's been doing it for 10 years now. Like, and there, this is all the stuff that you think you don't have going on, but you actually do. So components of self-actualization is maximizing abilities, leveraging and developing one's skills, talents, and potential to their fullest extent. So if people are coming to you, asking you how to do stuff, your potential is at its fullest extent. Because you can't teach somebody something you don't know. You can't tell them how to go on Microsoft Word and copy and paste if you don't know how to copy and paste. You can't tell them how to do, what's the other one with all the blocks? It's a Microsoft thing. It's all the blocks and then it adds it up. I can't think of what it's called right now. But what is it? Say it. Unmute your mic.
Excel sheet.
Excel sheet. Yeah. You cannot teach somebody Excel if you don't know how to do Excel. It's not possible. I don't care what anybody says, it's not possible. I've tried to learn it on my own. I failed at it miserably. It's not possible. So when you have all these talents, abilities, all these skills that you built up through the years, and then you take all that stuff and you put it towards your personal growth, because you know what to do. You just don't do it. You know, I could go get another job and get paid more money, but you're scared to do it. But when you mix that with the personal growth, you're going to have to come up. You're going to have to come up in that job or get another job. You're going to have to come up. And I think a lot of times people are scared. But again, most of these jobs ain't paying you worth. And there's jobs out there that will pay you the worth. But you're too scared because you think you don't know enough. Oh, I don't know this. I don't know that. But then you have people who they will go get a job and don't know nothing about the job. And they do it with confidence. They don't care. They'll fill out the application. They don't care. They'll go on interview knowing that they don't know nothing about this job, and they do it with confidence. So some of y'all need to pick up that confidence, that confidence of that person that always got a different job. They always got a different job, and you're just like, well, how did they get this job? What? Well, how are they doing this? They got confidence. You got to have that confidence within yourself, and you got to build it up. It's not going to happen overnight. And then authentic expression and fulfillment. Living in a way that is true to oneself, including expressing personal values, interests, and identity. A lot of people are not true to themselves. And when they really have to sit and be by themselves and be true to themselves, sometimes they don't like the person that they are. And that's okay. But once you start building up your confidence and start talking to yourself positively, you're going to be more true to yourself. And once you really start and sit down, because first thing some people do, they as soon as they get up, they're on their phone. They on their phone or they hit the floor running. They don't even have time for themselves. They don't even have time to think. And basically the world and the news and whoever else is thinking for them. So once you get to that point where you have to really come to yourself and say, okay, I don't like the way this is. I don't like how I'm living. I don't want to live like this anymore. Or like I said, you want to change jobs and you know you should change that job because some of these jobs are abusive. Like they abuse their workers. And it might not be physically, but mentally they're abusing their workers. And there's better out there. I know they're saying, there aren't jobs out there, there ain't jobs out there, but you won't know until you look. Achieving fulfillment, experiencing a deep sense of satisfaction and purpose from pursuing and achieving personal goals and aspirations. Once you start working on yourself, it feels good to you start working on yourself. It feels good to say somebody came because when you start working on yourself, people test you all the time. They really test you a lot. And when you could say somebody came and they said blah 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 blah, and back then, a year ago or 2 years ago, that would have triggered you. You would have been bothered by it for like a week. And now you can say, it doesn't even matter. That's how they feel. That's their opinion. And you can go on with your week without sitting on it and saying, oh, why did this happen? And oh, I can't believe she said this. And I can't believe he said that. You can go on with your week and just be cool about it. Like it don't matter. It's what they think. The essence of self-actualization is about reaching a state where you are fully engaged and becoming the best version of yourself, living a life that reflects your true self and purpose. You ever hear about people they make good money on their job and they're like, I quit because that wasn't my purpose. And you're like, you made 7 figures. What are you talking about? You're making this amount. Like, what do you mean? Like, and they quit because they're becoming the best version of themselves. And they need to fulfill their purpose. Because there's a whole bunch of people right now in the grave that did not fulfill their purpose. And people don't really think about how many people are in the grave that didn't fulfill their purpose. And I think a lot of times when people die really early or they die like a horrible death, like they get so sick that it's just like, why did they get this sick? I think a lot of times it's because they didn't walk in their purpose and they're hurting so bad that it now affects their body. And they think, like I said, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't know what to do. And they're so, I'm gonna just say that they die with their purpose. And especially some people, like you get people that always have ideas about stuff and you're like, where do you get this idea from? Like they always have ideas about stuff and they never move on it. And then a month or two or a year or two later, somebody else did what they should have did because they didn't do it. My mother was very much one of those people who always had ideas. She always had some kind of idea. And then back then when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so we had like QVC, we had different shopping network channels. Like the way TikTok is now, I don't know everybody's age in here, but the way TikTok is now with all the selling, we had a couple of channels that was just dedicated to that. And you just turn that channel and you just watch everything that they're selling. And it would be times we watching and I'm like, you just said that like 6 months ago. You just said that 2 years ago. So if you don't do whatever it is, that idea or whatever it is, it's going to get passed to somebody else. Somebody else is going to have your money. Somebody else is going to have your car. Somebody else is going to have your house because you let it pass. So you got to stop letting things pass and be honest with yourself. I'm scared. I'm scared. That's okay. One of my pastors used to say, do it scared. Do it scared. And I'm telling you right now, everything that you want to do, whatever it is, one step at a time. Pick one thing that you want to do. Go on YouTube. There's courses you could take, but YouTube is free. You're only spending your time. You can go on YouTube and figure some stuff out. And then there's going to be people that you meet some stuff out. And then there's going to be people that you meet that you're going to be like, I never met this person before. I lived in this city for 10 years, or I lived in this city my whole life. You're going to start running into people, and they're going to be the people that you need to help you with that. And I'm not saying everybody's going to be able to help you with that, but you're going to know the ones that are going to be able to help you with that, because they're going to be driven. They're going to have a different kind of drive than everybody else. And when you say your idea and the person that you need to talk to, they're going to be like, oh, I know somebody. And the person that you need to talk to, they're going to be like, oh, I know somebody that does blah, blah, blah. Oh, I know somebody that does this. Oh, and they do that. When you really put your head down and do what you need to do, those people are going to come. They're going to come to you. Even if you meet them online. I met so many people online that I learned different things from. Even if you meet them through the internet, your tribe is going to find you. They're going to find you. You're going to find them. Somehow it's going to connect. I don't know how, but it's going to connect. And you're going to be like, wow, Mika said that. But they're going to connect. And I did this Canva slide. This right here was already in the Canva slide. Respect yourself, love yourself, because there never has been a person like you, and there never will be. Read that to yourself. There's not going to be nobody like you. Nobody's going to love you like you. So if you don't love you, you cannot expect somebody else to love you. I did a video not too long ago where I don't know how old I was, but a couple of the girls used to always say, oh, when I become an adult, I want to have a baby so the baby could love me, because my parents don't love me. And I'm like, well, that's silly. But as a teenager, I'm like, you want to have a baby so a baby could love you? As a teenager, I think to say, you want to have a baby so a baby could love you? As a teenager, I think to say, well, don't you love yourself? But now as an adult, and seeing those same women with their kids, and I'm like, and even with myself, like, the kids might not even like you. And you sitting up here, I want to have a baby to love me. Like I tell everybody all the time, my second kid did not like me. She did not like me until she was like 4. And I did not have babies so the babies could love me. But she did not like me until she was like 4. So you running around here talking about you want to have a baby and all this stuff to love you, or you want to be with somebody so they can love you, but you don't love yourself. That's not it. It's definitely not it. It's not it. And I think that's where